So how did you get into acting?
That's a good question. Professionally, my route professionally was I went to drama school. I went to RADA, graduated from RADA, and then I got an agent while I was there. And that's sort of my link into the industry, auditioning, etc., and getting roles. But in terms of how I started acting in general, I was very young when I knew I wanted to do it. So from 8 years old, I knew I wanted to do it. And so from then, school plays, and I'd go into different, as I got older, I'd go to part-time drama schools. I went to the Young Actors Theatre. I went to Identity Drama School. I went to those places as well. And did some fringe theatre as well whilst I was at university. I was studying English literature, and alongside that I was at Identity Drama School part-time and doing any fringe theatre that I could find.
You were recently in The Curse. I was wondering, what's it like filming a comedy? Do you struggle not to laugh? Maybe when you do takes?
Yeah, it depends on, so working with those guys, they are comic actors primarily. One of them, Tom Davis, is a stand-up comedian as well as a writer and actor. So they were hilarious on set. So right. It was actually one of the first times in my career where I was actually corpsing during takes because what they were doing was just outrageous, but definitely worked for the show. But yeah, it was I wouldn't say hard to keep a straight face, but definitely part of the fun.
Yeah, because you play quite a serious character who's supposed to be really intimidating.
Yeah,
so exactly. I can imagine that would be difficult. And you were also in Morbius recently.
Yes.
Where your character's hand got broken. I was wondering, what's it like filming those scenes?
I've filmed a few scenes where there's fighting scenes or combat scenes. This one was particularly strange because I met the actor's double first. So I was acting with the actor's double. Jared Leo's double. I was doing a scene with him, and then one day, the next take, it was actually with Jared. So the first time we did the fight, it was filmed. What will happen is, so before the day, I'm taken in to do a little intensive, I guess, fight test just to see what I'm capable of. They put you through your paces a bit. There's a really cool fight team combat team who then teach you the moves and how they see it. And then I was taught a few versions, not knowing what version that they were going to go with on the day. And so you're prepped. I was prepped quite well before the actual action. And yeah, luckily I've had a few moments on screen where there's combat, so I was quick by the time I met Jared to do that scene. Yeah.
And so obviously it's quite a small part within the film. I was wondering, do you know what's going on with the wider plot whilst you were filming, or were you not aware of that at that moment?
No. So when this, especially these massive Marvel movies, they will tell you very little, especially if you don't need to know. And my character didn't need to know. He's in the movie for not even 2 minutes, but you get a gist of what's going on from the scene, and the director will give you a bit of information. But
right,
I'm a massive comic book fan, so I kind of knew the story.
Okay.
I understood generally what the premise of what was going on, but in terms of the script itself, no, I had no idea what was going to be. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's interesting. So do you maybe have a preference between acting for films and television?
That's a good question. I've never been asked that before. Film or television? I think they both have their merits. I think acting, so far, the films I've acted in, it's a shorter process.
Right.
However, I think it's a process that allows you a bit more freedom. So far, in my experience anyway, especially the last thing I did, you get a bit more freedom because you're kind of, it's the whole film is maybe 2 or 2.5 hours. You kind of have to go in and give what you bring a lot, essentially. And I think with television, it's more, it can feel more like a theatre situation when I've done longer stints on television, when I've been in every episode, like The Curse, for example. You get to revisit the character almost every day, and you get to I guess have your choices affirmed and sort of bedded in. On film, I think it's more of it's even more of a risk, essentially, because you don't have a frame of reference. With other episodes, it's right now, you know. That's a difference I can find, I think.
Right. And you were in, like, for example, you were in Cruella, where your character doesn't say much. So I was wondering, because I imagine speaking as your character kind of helps you get into character. So what's it like when you don't have to say much?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think you kind of surrender to like the function of the role, and it was a very aesthetic role, you know, and it's more about what it looked like, and having to myself and the other actor who were mainly in the scenes together, you kind of fall into what the director's vision is for it. So essentially, you know, it can seem quite boring, but you have to be focused actually to make sure that, you know, physically you are keeping the focus on where the focus is meant to be, and you blend in seamlessly with, you know, the look or the feel of the scene. But then you're also able to have you're paying attention. So when you do have moments of where you do break that, it's significant, you know what I mean? So when the characters are interacted with, you know, it's sort of like the contrast between a stoic sort of bodyguard to someone who's now interacted with some of the wacky things that happens in the movie. So yeah, it still requires a lot of focus, because you have to be active even though you're not saying anything.
It sounds like a kind of different style of acting, I guess.
Yeah, no, it is different. It's a different style, and I think any actor will tell you, like, they will take it, but they prefer to say things. Actually, in that movie, you know, watching it back, it's like, oh, this all makes sense. Like, actually, it's pretty cool, you know, and also who we were acting with, you know, Emma Thompson and Emma Stone and, you know, Mark Strong. Like, it's awesome to have been around them and just to watch what they did and to contribute to that was fun.
Yeah. And like you mentioned, so you're playing quite like a stoic, like intimidating bodyguard, and you play, I guess you play quite a lot of like intimidating roles. Have you played many like more light-hearted roles, or would you like to?
Yeah, I have. I think I've been quite lucky in so far in my career. I've got to do, you know, varied things. Definitely those roles, like the size I am, makes that I'm an easy pick for those things. And I do enjoy it. But, you know, there are things, there's a TV show called The Great where I got to play a different sort of character, who was, you know, who's more emotional, less self-assured. And there's a couple of things that are coming out where I get to play different sides, for sure. That's definitely something that I very much enjoy and I've been lucky to do.
I also saw you've done some theatre. What's that like? Because I've heard, like, some of the other actors I've spoken to, they've mentioned it's like a completely different experience, and some of their best moments of their career have been on stage. What's your experience with that been? I
would echo that. I think there's something about theatre which is just is so present, and the reward is so immediate. Because you have you have the weeks of rehearsal to get to these moments, the 2 or 3 hours on stage with a brand new audience, and every night is different. Every night is different.
Yes.
You're sensitive, reacting to everything around you, and you really get to immerse yourself in a world. There's a contract between you and the audience. Whereas on screen, it's a different thing. On screen, everybody there is contributing to creating the illusion of reality. But from a technical point of view, you've got lighting and sound, and the camera team and hair and makeup, and all of the people on set are just trying to make things function, props and art and all of these things. And it's almost like you're all kind of on the same side, trying to create this illusion for the camera. But in theatre, you've got the majority of the people in that audience are people who are not involved in the actual storytelling, but they are here to witness it, and that's who you're doing it for, are right there, right now. So that's definitely a big difference. And also just like the process of rehearsal, which you can get sometimes in film, but in theatre it's a bit different, when you get to go in and study the text and analyze it and figure out why we're telling the story and who for and what we want to bring out, what we want to say with it. And then also every night is also just another rehearsal process, actually, because every night informs the next night. So yes, definitely I've had some of the most profound moments of my career been on stage. I can say for sure, yeah.
Yeah. So I also wanted to ask about, because I feel like with acting, especially for like TV and films, there'll be a lot of traveling involved. What's that been like? It's quite random. You never know where you're gonna get taken. Even when I'm shooting in London, you never know where in London. If I'm shooting UK, you never know where. You kind of find out maybe a couple of days before, and you get taken there, which is nice. But they have to do that because everything's running on a tight schedule. So you kind of turn up in places, and you then have maybe, if you're lucky, 10 minutes to interact with the space that you're now going to be performing in. Yeah, but it's cool. It's always an exciting thing because you never know where you're going to go. It's rarely ever a glamorous situation. Often it's sort of, make and do with what you got, especially when you're shooting in London. But the travel element is definitely part of it. And I think it adds to our ability to tell the story or even be a character, because you're in environments which myself as an actor wouldn't normally be in. So yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I know you mentioned like interacting with the space. Does that help you get into character, would you say?
Yeah, no, it's helpful because I guess, you want to be able to convince the audience that this character, if for example, in Morbius, there's the character runs this counterfeit money lab. So I did as much as I could to just be around that space and familiarize myself with it. So I, as the actor playing the character, could portray that, this is his space. He's very used to it. But in reality, it's my first day I'm there, and in real life, we react differently to spaces we've never been in. But you can't do that as a character. You need to really feel like this is a lived in space. And often these are spaces that sometimes exist for one day and one day only. So that's the interesting dynamic you have.
Yeah, that's interesting. What is the strangest thing you've ever done for a role or an audition to get a role?
That's a good one. So I wonder if there is anything. Well, I've done strange things and not got the role.
Right.
If there's something specific about a prop, they don't normally need you to get it, but sometimes I'm like, do you know what? This would really help me. So there was an audition where I bought myself a life jacket, to blow up in the scene, which was worn over a tuxedo, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But again, I didn't actually get the role. Sometimes might give myself a scar, just to make myself feel more like the character, yes, but nothing too strange, I would say. Yeah,
That's
nothing too. Yeah, you don't want to scare them.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Have there ever been any roles that you got that you thought there was no way you were going to get? Like maybe the audition went wrong. If you can remember.
There's never been roles I never thought I was going to get because audition went wrong. But there have been roles I thought it's unlikely I'll get this role because I guess even though I thought I could do it, I thought I wouldn't be the right casting.
Right.
So those have always been, really happy surprises. Like, oh wow, they saw what I was seeing, but I doubted they could see it too. If that makes sense. So there's a couple roles where it's been like, oh, I'm so happy you could see this thing too. But every time I audition, I'm always imagining, no, I could do this. Yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
It's more about whether or not they it fits, their vision for the piece.
Do you have any coping mechanisms to deal with rejection? Because I imagine it's quite a big part of the industry.
It's a big part of the industry. I think definitely having people around you who you can talk to about it. It's having other actors or people who work in industries like this. Where it's essentially freelance. Being able to talk about it and share our experiences and. But I think a big thing for me is having other things that are just as important to me. Right. So I write. Writing is important to me. So I create my own work. That's something that takes up just as much time as acting. Yeah. On that side, and also continue to study the craft as much as I can. Whether that's I'm constantly in the cinema, I'm constantly watching TV shows, constantly in the theatre. And just analysing, why is this show successful? Why is this film not so successful? Trying to, have an understanding of those things. Help me feel and remind myself that there's always work to be done between the work that you're trying to book. So I'd say those things are the things that help me cope the most.